Furumi left me a comment asking how do you memorize a speech, but also how do you recall the speech in your head when you're already talking about it? Because when you're talking about it, how can you really think at the same time? So this video is more about that because I think I made a video about how to memorize a speech. I made so many videos I don't even know anymore, but I'll do a quick run through. So essentially what you do is you change your main ideas of your speech into an image of some sort. So let's say we have a speech about beds. So softness of beds. So for me, I think of a cloud, maintain beds. Let's say it's a wrench, because, wrench, because you fix things with a wrench, right? You maintain things by fixing them. So a wrench. Types of bed, maybe a typewriter. Boom. So now what I do is I use a memory palace to store my images. Why a memory palace? Because when it comes to a speech, you want to talk about your point in a specific order. So for this example, softness of beds wants to be the first thing that you talk about, then maintain beds, second thing, and so on. So in the corresponding location, in the first location, you'll have a cloud. Then when you see the cloud, it's like, oh yeah, cloud, the softness of beds, right? And then you go to the second location, place a wrench there, and so on. That's how you would memorize a speech. Well, a quick version of it. So let me get on to the part that Furumi is asking about, and which is really interesting too. How do you see your images when you're talking and giving a speech? Well, the thing is, when you're giving a speech, you're not always talking. Well, hopefully you're not, because you might have some pauses. The audience might be laughing, so of course you don't want to talk when the audience is laughing, right? Because you want them to hear what you're saying. So you can either make these pauses that are in strategic places for you to quickly go through your palace, like, oh yeah, second location, wrench, oh yeah, maintaining beds, right. Okay, hey, now I'm going to talk about how to maintain your bed. Or when people are laughing, then you're able to jump to your location, right, because you're just kind of standing there. So you're able to jump to your different locations, get your image, and then change it back. Now, what you might notice is that when you're memorizing a speech, you don't memorize it word for word. That is the worst thing you could ever do, because if you forget part of it, you get stuck on it. You're like, oh, what was I going to say? It was like this specific way. And so you're just standing there kind of just thinking, and it ruins the flow of your speech. So what happens is all you want to be able to do is remember the topic of the speech. So when you see the cloud, you're like, oh yeah, softness of beds. That's it, because your knowledge fills in the gaps, okay? So all you really need is the topic to be triggered. Like, oh yeah, then your knowledge fills in everything. You're like, oh, your softness of beds, and what kind of foam you're using, what kind of pillows, all these things, sheets. So you go into all these different things that you know. If you need to, okay, how do I say this? Well, if you need to memorize a lot of details about a specific topic, you really don't know the topic, right? Because that means you're lacking so much, you need all these things to remind you of every single thing. But if you actually know what you're talking about, having just this one part is enough. But there are times where if you're trying to memorize, numbers and stuff like that, like statistics, about how many soft beds are out there or something weird like that, then you have to memorize it word for word, right? You need to get that exact number. Or if you want to throw a quote in there, then you memorize that quote word for word. But what happens eventually is you should be able to talk about something and recall at the same time. Now, when I memorize a deck of cards, what happens is if I have to speak it, I go into like this mode where I see all the cards and I'm saying something, but then I'm already seeing the next card in my mind. And so I'm able to say the cards, but also see them at the same time. Now, that would work for a speech if they're simple images. So when I memorize a deck of cards, I know what images, what possible images are going to be there, right? Of course, the order is going to change, but I know what the images are. And so it's not really hard to come up with the images while I'm saying it. If these are your images for the speech, then it's really easy to kind of talk and see them, because all you're trying to see is a cloud. All you're trying to see is a wrench and a typewriter. So it's nothing too complicated, right? Just like my cards. But let's say you're trying to talk about a theory of physics, okay? Those are always complicated. It's not going to be quite as easy to talk about something and then see all your images, because your images are going to be so complex, the stories that you have, because you're trying to represent this complex idea, right? This theory. So in that instance, you might not be able to talk and then recall at the exact same time, because what you're talking about is so complex that you need 100% focus to make sure you're saying the correct thing. Of course, when I'm recalling a deck of cards, I can always say the wrong card just because I'm trying to get ahead of myself, right? My mind is going faster than my mouth. Let me get back to Furumi's comment. And so when it comes to a speech, you're able to review and recall your images when you have a pause, either naturally or maybe you just make a pause just so you could check, right? When people are laughing. And you also just want to practice giving your speech just in general, because if you're practicing it, you might be able to get to the point where you're able to see your image when you're talking. So that is the end goal, to kind of recalling information, that you can recall information and see it all at the same time, right? But if you can't get through it, it's okay. Just find ways and strategies like having pauses when people are laughing, whatever it may be, to find a way to recall your images. So hopefully this answers your question. For me, I know you were asking about the speech, how to memorize speech. I'll give you a quick rundown of that. But I thought the other part of it, of how do you recall something when you're talking, because that's right now I'm talking to you, but at the same time I'm thinking about, hey, I'm gonna eat chicken. So I thought about that before I even said it, that I was gonna eat chicken for dinner. So some things are a lot simpler, but if I'm trying to think about something complex physics problem, and I'm trying to talk just to you right now, it probably won't work, just because there's so much focus that you have, right? And so it can't be split between those two, because then you're gonna start saying something that doesn't make sense, and then when you're trying to think about it, you're thinking about something that doesn't make sense in respect to the physics problem. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.